Oh, brother. I gotta even check and make sure. Good, okay, we've got the headphones. So, we've shifted. We're now in the pub. I've got a weird lighting setting, but I think this feels all right. We can drink tea here in this pub out of our mermaid cup. So let's see, where was I? I'm gonna pour a bit more tea here. You guys have to let me know if you can hear me. I can now see the number of live viewers, but I need someone to like, whoop, put a comment there. Maybe, I've never done it on if I push this. I see Robin. Robin, can you actually hear me, and is the delay wacky, or have we hacked Facebook? Have we fudged our way in using VV language through Facebook and gotten ourselves sorted? Someone let me know. Yes, 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 feels good. So I won't be able to drum then because I can't do it standing up. I need to sit down. So let's see, we just finished talking about the intensive. What are you doing?
I'm just gonna make a quick...
Okay, Bae's just gonna come in here and poke her head in. Hello, Bae.
Hi.
Yeah, they can hear me.
Come here, Grammy, come here.
Okay.
Come on, it's just a family show just for a second. Hello.
There's Grimby.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello from quarantine.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, I'll go now.
Okay.
Where's my... Okay. Can I get that water?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry.
No problem. Just dealing with interruptions today. Thank you. Let me get a train of thought going here. Oh, that's awesome, Robin. I think we actually, so we've had to pay someone to deliver dog food, or I'm pretty sure that the store said that we could just go and pick it up, but in any event. So let's see. A couple things I'm really present to, like leadership in the face of this, this virus, and what I'm seeing a lot of is, first of all, we've got a breakdown happening, obviously. And a lot of what seems to be showing up is that people are kind of either shirking away from leadership or stepping into leadership. And I think that's a really amazing thing. We're kind of losing the ability to sit on the fence. And it's not like we should or should not step into leadership. It's not like one is better than the other. I just noticed that part of what COVID-19 is doing is really creating like a clean distinction. And those that are ready or that have been waiting and are kind of now called forward are taking that step, are stepping into leadership. And I really think on the other side of all of what's going on, we're gonna see some people, like things are gonna be different on the backside of this. The easiest example you can think of is that we're probably never gonna work in offices the same way. I imagine that, great lie. I wonder what you're talking about there, Charlie. Great lie. I don't know. But I think that you're not gonna find that on the back side of this, we're like, yeah, let's just go back and work in offices and cubicles and all of that sort of stuff and keep things exactly the way they were. It's just not gonna happen. And so I think that we're gonna see real shifts across the board. That's the most obvious one. And I think that what we're seeing is people are stepping into leadership to kind of lead into the unknown in the face of everything that's happening. And those people are really gonna have an impact. You know, this is sort of the, got it, Charlie, great, live. Thanks, Charlie, appreciate it. Great lie, why is this man calling me out for lying? What am I lying about? COVID-19 is real. So it feels kind of like we're in this place right now where leaders are being forged. People are being called to step forward, to lean out over the edge, to take that scary step. And it's kind of interesting because we're always confronted with opportunities for leadership. I'm gonna move closer so I can see these comments. Oh, I see, this light's shining on me. What if there we go, kind of works. Guys, I'm learning how to do these lives. This is a complicated thing. So kind of like that on a little bit more. What do you guys think? Light on or off? Does my forehead look shinier with it on or off? You tell me. there's always moments, we're always being invited into leadership. That's a continual thing. Life puts these opportunities in front of us, and typically what we do is we're like, maybe later, maybe another time, now just isn't the time. And what this virus is doing is it's taking away all of the complexities, all of the little things that we can say, I can wait a little bit longer, or thanks Heather, there we go, or I'm not so sure, and just removing those. And so where we're left is, it's now or I don't. I actually have to step forward or I don't. And so some of the things, Charlie's saying guys, I need consensus. What if I turn this up? Maybe this will work. Oh, I turned it down. That's brilliant. Let's not do that. That's a very intimidating amount of light. There, does that feel about right? That feels good. Yeah, I think this is the way to go, guys. Thanks. So some of what I'm seeing is really cool. I notice I'm kind of inundated with conversations right now. There's a lot of people that in the wake of this are really feeling, hey, I don't want to keep doing what I'm doing. There's a lot of people that are finding themselves hey, now that I'm working from home, I notice I can get my job done in about 4 hours, and the rest of that time, I'm not, what is going on? And so, Heather doesn't like that. Oh, perfect, great. And so, there's a lot of people that it seems like this has brought us to the edge, where it's okay, you're either gonna jump, or you're not gonna jump, and that's kind of where we're at. I'm being a little inarticulate with this, and Robin, I'm amazed too, and I'm amazed you think that I'm staying on point. I'm having a lot of conversations right now with people that are willing to own that they're afraid, and from that place it's starting to open up a lot more for them. They're willing to own they're afraid, and then from there they're willing to own their dissatisfaction. They're willing to own I'm really curious about is there not something more past this? They're willing to own that they've been tolerating a lot for a long time. And I think one of the gifts of humans is that we can tolerate a lot. We can put up with a lot, we can hang out for a long while, we can I guess, tolerate a lot. We can be with a lot. And the most resilient people can tend to tolerate the most, and that tends to lean or ultimately create a fair bit of suffering for them. And so the beauty, the gift in this virus is it's kind of putting us to a point where we're fuck it, I'm not willing to tolerate anymore. I'm tired of this. It's forcing us to confront what we haven't been confronting, and really face ourselves. It's a real gift in this. Okay, let me take a sip of tea. Let me regroup my thoughts. I had a list of topics, and they're over there on my computer. So let me take a moment to just sit and see what comes up to be spoken about. Oh yes, cleansing our palate for stimulation. That was a big one for me, and remains a big one for me. So I noticed that there's a way things can tend to go for me, especially when I go on vacation. Let's start with this. Have you ever noticed when you go on vacation, some of you may be foodies like me. My favorite thing going on vacation is sample the alcohol, sample the food. I love those two things. I love eating. I really love eating. I love on vacation that I can eat and have an excuse not to exercise, etc., etc. I've got all the reasons in the world. And when you come back home, there's this period where everything in your kitchen sucks. And I don't know about you, but all I want to do is go out and eat food. I want to keep eating out because what's happened is my palate has acclimated to a particular, I don't know what we'd call it, it's acclimated. It's acclimated to a particular, I guess, level of saturation, we might say, in the food. When you eat out your food, and this is factually proven, unless you're one of the people that only eats at that special vegan restaurant, and even then I would wager they're doing stuff. It's been proven that the food is cooked with more fat, more oil, it's cooked with more salt, it's cooked with more of the stuff. It's not intended to generally speaking, be healthier. It's intended to be more appealing, richer on your palate. So we've acclimated to a real richness in the food that we're eating. And when you come home, it usually takes a little bit of time and a willingness to be with the kind of the boringness, the mundanity of the food that you cook, because you're not eating this rich food. And so for the first couple of days, and I don't know if you guys notice this, but I notice this a lot. Be cool just to hear some people share if you've had the same experience. We come home the first couple of days, it's like, oh, I've got nothing to eat. My kitchen sucks. I don't like anything. Maybe you're a fantastic chef and you cook with lots of oil. I don't know. Maybe you put more butter on your toast for a while. Whatever it is, it's kind of this human thing where we go away, we acclimate to something, and we come back. So what we're talking about here is really our palate for food, the palate in our mouth that sort of like we appetize around. It generates our experience of enjoyment of food, our taste, etc. I notice that I have something very similar for the level of stimulation in my life. So when I talk about stimulation, I'm talking about any of the things you choose to use to stimulate yourself. They could be TV, it could be alcohol, it could be pot, it could be any other drugs, it could be sex, it could be affairs, it could be porn, it could be skydiving. None of these, like whatever of these you may have judgment around or like a relationship to that it's bad or wrong or different, I'm inviting you to set that aside for now because that's not really our conversation that we're having here. The conversation that we're having is that there are certain things that are stimulants for us, and different people have different things that they choose to stimulate themselves with. Also get used to some preparation for it for you and serving you. Yes, Tommy, yeah, that's like a practice, right? When we come home, we gotta I gotta get used to taking more time and all of that sort of stuff. So there's like a degree of our palate acclimating to the lack of convenience when we come back home. We have to start cooking and doing the work. So I've been away for a week in Palm Springs, and I was eating richer, I was drinking more, and I was also playing more video games and really like watching more TV. Bay and I were watching movies, all forms of stimulation for myself. And what I find really interesting about this is I'm now gradually stepping back into my structure, the structure that supports me in my life, that allows me to do everything that I do, that allows me to lead and take on what I'm doing. And I just want to read what you've written here, Mara. I'm going to get in. Oh, look, that, I don't like that. There's my camera. Slower pace and less stimulus, I'm just going to spit on the screen, has left me feeling lethargic. I've been wondering where my passion for life is. Right, so you may have the same thing that I've got, Mara. Because what I notice is, usually upon coming back from vacation, or on setting aside whatever level of stimulation I'm currently running at, there is a period where everything seems boring. And I get to the end of my day, I finish work at 6, and I'm checking my phone like crazy, because I'm craving that level of stimulation I've been operating at. I've raised my palate for stimulation. So while in Palm Springs, while on an airplane, while whatever, I've been just constantly getting stimulated. And that's the level at which my consciousness and my brain and my level of distraction, all of that are now tuned. That's the key in which they're tuned to. And so I'm in this place right now where I'm practicing letting that go. I'm letting go of watching TV. I'm choosing off TV and instead putting music on so that I can actually do something. I'm choosing out of video games so that I can read. I'm choosing not to drink for a lot of reasons. It's way too easy when you're working from home. That's a dangerous one. And I'm eating back on the I could say diet. It's not really a diet, it's just how I eat when I'm here, but we'll call it a diet. It's the way I'm eating. I'm choosing back into that. And I notice that it kind of leaves me like this. What should I do? What do I do? What do I do? It's boring. I need to do something. I'm struggling. And so I don't know that I have something about this other than the opportunity that I think is there for us is to distinguish it. To like, oh, it's not that I've lost my passion for life. I would say, Mara, I can't speak for you, but it's really just, oh, I've been stimulating myself for a while, and that's the level at which I'm used to my kind of consuming, really. And what I need to do, or what I'm going to choose to do, is bring that down so I can create more. You know, the more we consume, the less we tend to create. The more we create, the less we tend to consume. And so what that means is that in the evenings, I'm I'm spending time kind of sitting there like, and if I'm willing to sit in that and not react to that, right? That's that part of my brain that's like, hey, get ice cream. Hey, maybe pour a drink. Hey, you should do this. Hey, right, Chrissy? Hey. If I'm willing to sit with that and not react to it, if I'm willing to sit with that and let it be, then over time, what happens is I tend to like, well, what can I do? And then the muse starts to show up because I'm not blocking her. I'm not stimulating myself so that I can't really hear much else. When we stimulate ourselves, when we're overstimulated, it's harder to hear spirit. It's harder to hear the muse. It's harder to hear your own inspiration. And so as I slow down, as I let go of that, I notice that where it leaves me is productive, really, able to take stuff on, ready to read, to do things that are a lower level of stimulation. Like reading, I would say, tends to be much less stimulative than TV is. It's also more generative. When you're reading, your mind is doing some work because you're creating these characters. There's a degree of you kind of partnering with the book. You're creating like, oh, that's how that voice sounds. That's what Inspector Gamache, who I've been reading, that's what he looks like. That's what that mustache being described looks like. You're creating it a little bit. You don't do much creating at all with TV. With TV, you just allow it to come in and you receive it. So it's a lot more receptive. So I'm just noticing this. I'm noticing like, oh, I'm in the process of resetting my palate, of coming to a different level of stimulation and becoming comfortable with that, letting that sit. And what tends to happen if you're willing to be in the practice of sitting with that is that eventually you acclimate to it. Just like you acclimate to the food in your pantry when you come back from eating out a lot, and eventually like you stop realizing. You stop craving for that salty, fatty, delicious treat, and instead start to look forward to that lean chicken breast, broccoli, rice, whatever it is that you're eating. I'm gonna lean in here and read what is it? Whoop, hey, get out of here. Get out of here, your viewers tab. It's hard to, do you guys find this? Any of you doing lives with a camera like this? Do you look like me right now? Kind of fiddling around like a bozo? Easing into less. Yeah, I think one of the things we're finding with COVID-19 is we're gonna see a bit of both sides of this. Like, it's a recipe for more boredom, first of all, because when we're not creating, when we're using consumption to kind of escape boredom, and I really believe that the magic, the tonic, the cure for boredom and stuff like that tends to be creation. Well, really it's sitting. And if we're willing to sit long enough, eventually we feel inspired to create something, and then we create, and then all that boredom tends to go away. But what most of us try to do when we are bored is seek out more stimulation, and that only works so far. Probably a number of you have had this experience, maybe not, I don't know, but I often have this experience where I like video games. There, I said it, it's out in the open. Guys, I like video games. And I'll finish a day at work and I'm like, man, I want to play that video game. I'm going to play Streets of Rogue. This is a game I've been playing for a while now. So I'll turn it on and I'll play it. And the first half hour is like the first beer. It's delicious. It's exactly what I want. Then I play for another hour and it's not as much fun. And it's kind of, it's so vulnerable. Thanks, Brian. Thanks. It was really put myself out there. I should have prefaced that with like, vulnerability alert. That's good. I enjoyed that moment between you and I. What are you saying, Chrissy? Said to someone the other day, the world will be in full creative mode within 2 weeks, brilliant ideas, and birth from all the silence. Yes, and I think it's also going to be in full stimulation mode. Because what I notice is it's easy we can stimulate ourselves while bored. It's the same way people can stay in a job they hate if they keep getting more money, which is what is happening a lot in the world, is that money is an excellent painkiller and numbing agent. And so you, I, other people, we will tend to stay in a job we really don't like because the pay keeps getting better and better, and that lets us buy more treats to stimulate ourselves further so as to. And so I think part of the opportunity with COVID-19 is to start noticing our tendency to stimulate and to notice when we're stimulating over top of boredom. Here are some of the ways that I see that look. One is me playing that video game for an extra hour, not really enjoying it. I'm just doing it to do it. This, I've seen myself doing this forever. So one, just noticing that. Watching the next TV show, but not really watching it. Have you guys ever done this move where you're watching TV and you're doing this? And like the show's playing, you're binging kind of, but you're just like, you're not even present with it. That's a great place to turn the TV off. That's a great place to just notice like, oh, I'm not even interested in this. It's there, it's happening, but I'm distracting myself from it. We're seeking more stimulation. That's a place where we're trying to stimulate over the boredom, stimulate even further. Eating the bag of chips all the way down when you've gone past the point of it being delicious and you're just eating it to eat it. I do that with chocolate all the time. Drinking the 3rd, 4th, 5th, whatever number of beer it is, just cuz. I used to do this a lot when I would, I'd go out with people, and what I can distinguish is that I would get to the point where for whatever reason, there was some part of me that wanted to disconnect. Who I am is connection. When I'm being in connection with people, time is in flow. I'm not even aware of it. You know, they say like time flies when you're having fun. I don't think that's totally true. I would say time flies when you're being who you are. Time flies when you're being your essence. So for example, I am connection. Time flies when I'm being connection with people. Well, what happens, I'd go out with people, we'd chat for a while, and then I'd start to get bored. What was really happening is I would withdraw my connection. So I would pull inwards. I'd lose interest in them, and rather getting curious, rather than creating interest, rather than generating myself as curious, rather than generating connection, I'd be like, this person sucks. This person's a dud. I'm bored, disconnect. And now I'm bored. And time is no longer really, it's not fun, it's not fast, it's not flowing, because I'm not being who I am. I'm being the antithesis of who I am. I'm being disconnected. And so what I would do is I would seek to stimulate to make that happen. I would drink. Okay, I'll get another beer. So I would tend to drink a lot of beer at these gatherings, not because I necessarily even wanted it, just because I was bored. I was understimulated. I was being something that I was not, and then trying to medicate the symptom of that with beer. And so what happened was eventually I was like, okay, this would be maybe like 10, 8, 9, I don't know how many years ago. I was like, I'm gonna stop drinking. I don't want it to have a hold on me, which I've done a number of times. So I stopped drinking for a year. And what I would do then next in these situations, now I've taken away that like medicating thing. I've taken away the thing I use to stimulate myself over my disconnection. And what I would then do is I would just leave. Hey, there's a get out of here notification. Okay, you didn't. I'm just gonna read your nugget here. Notice where we choose stimulation to overcome boredom. Choose connection to be who we are with others with curiosity. Thanks, Brian. I like the nuggets. So I stopped drinking. I took away the painkiller, right? Now I would be with these people. The same thing happened. I'm being the same person. I'm deciding they're a dud. I'm withdrawing my connection. I'm turning away from them. I don't have alcohol anymore. So the strategy then became, well, I'm just going to leave. So what I found I did was I stopped spending as much time in those situations, which was kind of better in a way. Like I was changing my circumstances. I was no longer using alcohol to medicate or to stimulate over top of a moment that wasn't enjoyable. But as I've gone deeper into transformative work and really like taken on ontology over here, what I can see is neither of those is really the solution that's available for me. The real opportunity is, hey, Adam, notice you're disconnected and that's leaving you bored. What is there to connect back into? What could you plug into in this person? How could you get more curious about what's going on over there? How could you ask them about like the boredom? Hey, what's going on? Does this feel boring to you? These are all sort of conversations that I could have. Here's another kind of example of this. Hey, Jared, nice to see your name pop up, man. Let's pour some more tea together, guys. Another example of this was kind of the opposite way it would go. So again, I am connection. What I was doing in these situations I just described was the underexpression of connection. So I like this person's not saying what I want them to say, or they don't have the things that I need, or whatever it was. So I disconnect. That's the under-expression of connection, right? The over-expression of connection would be like to really like ladle on a lot of connection, right? To talk a lot, to fill all the spaces in the conversation with more conversation. And so that would happen when I would be afraid of awkwardness. You guys ever had those conversations where it's like really awkward? And so the strategy I would bring to those conversations would I would basically turn up the stimulation. I would like, well, no, that's not quite right. I would just turn up the connection. I would try to like connect on top of being connected. And what that cost me was, it was exhausting and draining. I was like, oh my God, I don't like going to mixers because they're exhausting. Of course they're exhausting. I'm trying to like turn myself up to 11. And it's not who I am. Who I am is just connection, not connection plus connection plus connection. And so the real opportunity in those moments might be to say something to someone like, hey, is it awkward right now? It is awkward to acknowledge when it's awkward, but at least now we're speaking about what is there, right? We're not playing over top of it, trying to pretend, hey, it's not awkward, let's just chat more and maybe somehow this will go away. Instead, we're just acknowledging, yeah, it is kind of awkward. What is that? I'm worried, like, this is where a conversation can really become quite intimate. You can actually create something from whatever you're trying to operate over top of and be like, we got to start ourselves first, but it might look like, yeah, I think I'm trying to impress you. Or, yeah, I don't know what to say in this conversation. That's connection. That's how we create connection, is by acknowledging what's there, speaking to what's already in the space, as opposed to trying to operate over top of what's in the space or fix what's in the space or make it okay that there's something in the space without talking about it, etc., etc. What are you saying there, Brian? I call this moment Conversations with Adam. Sweet. Good name for that moment. So anyhow, I've kind of veered into an ontological conversation about connection. Where we started was cleansing our palate of stimulation, being willing to be with it and really sit in whatever there is for us to sit in. And I think this virus is providing a really cool opportunity to do that. I'm really excited for what people are going to start to create. And I also really want to give people permission not to create. What some people will choose to do in this is simply to wait it out, basically, to like adapt so that we can keep doing things exactly the same way. And white knuckle makes it sound a bit dramatic, but basically like white knuckle, like struggle, suffer, do whatever you have to do to like get through it and then go back to life as normal. And I think that's totally fine. I just think it's really missing an opportunity that's in front of us. An opportunity is like, hey, all of the stuff that we tend to use to distract ourselves is gone. We can't go out to a pub for a drink. I can't go out to eat at a restaurant. We can't watch sports. We can't go to sporting events. So we really just have to be with ourselves. That's a friggin' cool opportunity. I'm excited to see what people create from this. And, well, I guess that's what I have to say about that. What do you guys have to say about that? Okay, let me check in. I want to see if I have any other things that I want to share or talk about today before we flip this switch. I'd love to hear if anyone else is having trouble with the new Facebook interface. I'm finding that very confusing. I'd love to hear how people do. I've never done a live on a phone because I prefer to have the computer because then I can read stuff and I can like share a screen or do stuff like that. So I'm curious if you're someone that does lives and you do it on a phone, how do you manage these comments here while staying at a distance like this, but then like going in and back? I'm not totally clear how to manage that, so I'd love to hear from anyone that's doing that. I'll share that I put out a post about like ways to do virtual meetings, and I realized I was really ahead of myself a little bit. So we're doing a virtual summit for the intensive, like I said, and I don't really know what we'll do, but I do really trust our work. I trust the body of work behind myself, behind Bay. I trust our being and our ability to create a powerful experience regardless of the space we find ourselves in. And I notice that when you're in a room with people, you can kind of look away and still be a part of the room. And the room is still a part of you. It's still, your visual context still includes the whole room. Whereas with something like Zoom, or what, like I got a lot of different alternatives to Zoom, but they're all kind of like, you know, talking heads is really the paradigm. We have a bunch of rectangles with people's faces in them, and we can hear them speak if they go off mute. I noticed that when you turn your head this way, all of the room vanishes. The room is contained in a rectangle. And so there's less, it's less immersive. You know, it does pretty good. We can get pretty far, but there's a bit of a lacking of that immersion. And what I was really hoping, check the screen every 10 minutes. That's a good idea. Yeah, I guess I can do that. What I was really hoping for was, I realize now, like basically virtual reality. I was hoping we could have this experience where I get to see myself in a circle with everyone and maybe see them fidgeting in their chair or see where they're looking, have an avatar or something like that. And then I realized, oh yeah, that would require everyone to have like a full suit they're wearing that then tracks their movements, or a camera that like picks up that stuff. My nose is very itchy. I know I'm not meant to touch my face. Sorry guys, that's why I'm in self-imposed quarantine. That's really what I would love, is the ability to plunk ourselves into a room and have our avatars there and have that same experience of being in a space together, because that's really what's missing, I think, from virtual meetings, is that we've gotten pretty far. It's pretty good. You can communicate a lot, but there is, at least for me, some degree of lacking in the shared space. And I'm really craving the point we can get to where we've got some kind of virtual reality where we can bring ourselves all into this shared experience of being in a shared space, absent the distractions around us, absent it just being contained in a rectangle. I wonder, is that going to pick up, you know, on the back end of COVID? Will we see more people? Will we see more funding for technology like that? Will we see more investment for technology like that? Is it even worth it? You know, that's a bit of an inconvenience to put on a suit like that, or whatever it is that you do, that Ready Player One style of gameplay, for those of you that've seen the movie or read the book. But I do think that there's really something in that. I think that crossing that gap will really, it'll be interesting to see what kind of diseases exist in that world, because then we can just separate so much more efficiently while remaining together. Imagine at that point we'll see a lot more digital, like mimetic kind of viruses, fear and stuff like that transferring. See what Robin says. Here's a close-up of me. We're experimenting with spaces where we're in the same room as an avatar. Huh. So how does that work, Robin? You're in the same room as an avatar. So is there like a dummy that someone's controlling or something like that? Like, that would be cool. Or I could imagine it with like augmented reality, where you could wear glasses and then I could have a hologram of Tupac here. Like, it's all digital. Huh. Well, that'd be cool. I'd like that. Okay. I don't think I have too much more to share today. I really want to check in here because I know I thought I had one more thing. Nah, it's not there. We're not going to sweat it. So thanks everyone for sticking around. Thanks for managing with this technical stuff for me. I'm going to see if we can find a way to make this a little bit better, and of course do a bit of research so that I can possibly do it on a computer rather than on a phone. Hope you guys are doing awesome. And I want to say that if anyone needs a conversation or would like one, if you are feeling kind of scared or fucked up or fudged up or unsure or without the ground under your feet, or it doesn't really matter, like wanting connection, anything like that, I've got time for you. So I want to make that offer because I think we need it, and it's a really good time for us to be in the practice of acknowledging, like, hey, I could use some support. You know, now is one of the best times to ask for that. And there's a lot of support out there available. So reach out if there's anything that I can provide. Reach out to anyone else if there's anything that they can provide you. And reach out to people if there's anything you can provide. Thanks for being in this together, guys, even though we're all separate. Love you. Have a good weekend, if a weekend is even a thing anymore.